Morning. So today's Easter Sunday. Up nice and early today, out in Buxton, hoping to beat the crowds. If you are the religious type, I hope you have a lovely Easter. And if not, I hope you enjoy your Easter eggs. See Buxton Opera House just behind me there. Very nice. Built in a Palladian style. It was designed by a guy called Frank Matcham, who was synonymous with opera houses and theatres. He built the Hackney Empire, the Shepherd's Bush Empire, the Colosseum, the one in London, not the one in Rome, and the London Palladium, Hippodrome, all kinds of buildings, including that one right there. Very nice. So I started off today's walk in Buxton, and for the first time in our Ethels hunt, the Romans are making an appearance. If you'd have been here circa 2,000 years ago, you might have called this place Acra Armenite, which literally means water of Armenicia. She was a goddess in Roman culture that they stole from the Celts, common in this part of the world. It's one of two Roman bath houses, bath towns in the country, the other being Bath, which are known as Aquasulis. Obviously famous for its water, very specifically its warm water. An aquifer that pulls water up from about a kilometre down and churns out water at a fairly sustainable 27 degrees, which is right in the wheelhouse for bathhouses. If you'd have been here 1950 years ago, roughly, you might have bumped into Emperor Hadrian, who visited the town in about 50 AD on his way up to build his wall. There is kind of still a bathhouse in Buxton, although it's kind of been subsumed into the Crescent, which was built in the 18th century, at about the same time as Bath Royal Crescent was built, although by completely different architects. So I'm heading through Corbar Woods, which is just above Buxton. I need to go through that door. Wonder if there's anybody in. I think we're good. Always close the gates behind you, remember, guys? So Corbar Woods sits just above Buxton's building line. It was intended for the patrons of Buxton to enjoy the view over the rooftops. The paths were laid out by our friend Joseph Paxton. Go and check out my video on Leesmore for more details on him. They became known as Victorian Swiss Walk. No reason given. But the woods is actually more well known for its lead mining, or specifically its lead smelting. They used a material called white coal, which was actually made out of oak, and it's different from coal in that it's not coal, and it's different from charcoal in that it's not fully carbonised. They would heat it over fire pits and mix it with the lead and some charcoal in kilns that were called Q pits, because they were literally the shape of a Q, and the lead would smelt and run out of the Q's leg. They did that from about the 14th century all the way up to about 1750, where some industrial types figured out a way of smelting lead using coal alone. It's much more efficient. But for 400 years this place was a hive of activity for lead smelting. The reason they couldn't just use charcoal or coal in Q pits is because it burnt too hot. It literally boiled the lead away and you'd be left with nothing. So I noticed quite a lot of logging work going on. It's not a commercial operation. Over the past few years, Corbar Woods has really struggled with larch disease, sometimes called Romarum blight, which is a fungus. It's a pathogen that basically kills larch and oak trees. So from 2026 onwards, from early 2026, a couple of months ago, that's quite aggressively fell trees to thin out and stop the spread. Means you get big patches like that are pretty sparse, but it gives them an opportunity to replant some more native wildlife. One of the things that's attacked by larch disease is rhododendrons, which are notorious for being invasive. They're not native to this land. So maybe the plus side of this situation is that we end up with a more homegrown, more natural woodland, which would be nice. And then from the 1750s onwards, everybody switched over to using coal in giant kilns, and the Q pit kilns went forever cold, never to be used again. So I'm heading out of Buxton, and man does it rise steep. So I'm less than half a mile in, a few hundred yards in. And Buxton is an aggressive start. I'm straight up. No messing around today. Pretty steep here. Just underneath the first Ethel for the day. I'll have to stop recording actually and get some hands on rock. Here we are, Ethel number 18, Corbar Hill. Let's take a look down over Buxton there. Lovely. Oh man, that's steep. Ethel number 18, Corbar Hill. There's Buxton down there, looking lovely. So the cross, you see behind me there, marks the summit of Corbar Hill. It was donated to the Catholics of Buxton by, you guessed it, the Duke of Devonshire. He does pop up a lot. The 5th Duke in this instance. It was put there to commemorate the declaration of a holy year in the 1950s by Pope Pius X, 12th. It was put there to commemorate a holy year dedicated by Pope Pius XII in the 1950s. It's had quite a storied life, that cross. It used to be made out of wood. In the 1990s, some students painted it pink as a prank. And then much more seriously, in 2010, it was actually chopped down. It was cut down at the protest of Pope Benedict arriving in the UK and his association, alleged association, with the cover-up of child abuse in the Catholic Church. This time it was related to a school in Market Wheaton, which is in East Yorkshire. I think it was called St Joseph's, although it was never actually confirmed which school specifically it was regarding. So they re-erected it, put a bit of a fence around it, not that that stopped you getting to it, and it's stood there ever since. Aircraft overhead there, you can see it. We're not that far from Manchester Airport, probably on a flight path. Twin engine jumbo, 737 possibly. So where are we off to today then? Got 4 Ethels on the agenda. Got Corbar Hill, not to be mistaken with Corbar Edge. Go and check out my video from last week on Higrator, Corbar Edge, Stanish Pole and High Neb. Corbar Hill. We've then got Black Edge, Coombs Head, and then Burbage Edge to finish off. We're about 13 miles all in today, and it's looking like it might be quite a warm one. The sun is very definitely coming out to play on this lovely Easter weekend. Let's see how we get on. So I've had a week or two where it's been reasonably dry. I would not like to be tackling this when it's wet. How do I get round here? This might be interesting. So I've spent the last, I don't know, half a mile walking down the edge of this moor. Not sure what moor it is, to be honest. And it's incredibly heavy going. Every 50 yards or so, it's like a stream that's emerging from somewhere up there and flooding the footpath out. It's not really rained for, not properly, for a couple of weeks. Bits and bobs here and there. I can only imagine what this must be like in the depths of winter, because even I'm finding it difficult to navigate. There we go, there's another bit of bog there, look. You can really see why people come unstuck in places like this and end up in bother, because you can't always see the mud, the puddles. You can't always tell how deep it is. I'm gonna have to just jump this bit. And one step and it sticks to you like super glue. It's really hard to get out of it once you're in there. Boggy, heavy, clayey mud. Even on a day like this, gotta keep your wits about you guys. So I'm up on this moorland, very pretty. Lovely purple tinge to everything. The fun thing is, seemingly every 50 yards or so, I startle some partridges or some other nesting birds that kind of fly at your face. Fun times. So I'm coming up on my second Ethel of the day. Black Edge. Combs moss. Goes by a number of names. It's the first 500 metre plus Ethel that I will have summited thus far. Stands at a whopping 507 metres. So for those of you that watched my video on Higger Tor, Standish Edge, Standish Pole High Neb, this Black Edge is the other half, the other end of the Millstone Grit rock strata. If I go due east from here, just over that way, I will hit Standish Edge, and it will be the same rock that I'm currently walking on. So 350 million years ago, Gondwana land, still a thing. So Pangaea had broken up, but our modern continents had not yet drifted to their current locations. This was a shallow sea, and as plate tectonics did its thing, the rock strata, the Millstone Grit rock strata kind of domed upwards and was weathered away into a big old valley. So you can see that's Millstone Grit and that's limestone. You see the difference in greenery. So I'm just coming up on the summit of Black Edge. There is a trig point, but apparently that's about 150 metres off the top of the hill. So we're going to walk straight through it. I'm not quite sure when I'm going to be at the top. Another one of those very slightly higher than the rest of the moor around us summit. Although it does claim to have a prominence of 99 metres. I have no idea how that's measured because it's pretty flat up here. I guess there is the edge down there. Maybe that's what they mean. But Ethel number 19, Black Edge. Here we are, trig point number 2 of the day. Black Edge. So about, I don't know, half a mile away from Black Edge. We're at Black Edge South Summit. Misses out on the Ethel by about a metre to Black Edge. Sometimes it's called Brown Edge. Just compensate by giving you lovely views over Buxton now. Here we are, Brown Edge. There's Buxton down there, look. Hazy today, maybe we can't quite make it out. Got some kind of tumble down bothy of sorts. Lest you need to take shelter. So just on my way across to Combs Head, it's another 500 plus metre Ethel. Just misses out to Black Edge by about 4 metres. 503 metres this one. Interestingly, fairly steady stream of aeroplanes straight ahead, straight above us. We're about, I don't know, 10-15 miles away from Manchester Airport. Any pilots that maybe have flown into Manchester? Does a 500 metre obstacle cause much of a problem? It feels like it probably would. I mean, the last thing you need to be doing is slamming into a moor 10 miles from home. I presume there's some kind of altimeter issues that you'll need to deal with. But let me know, I'm interested to hear. So at fairly regular intervals down this moor, see a couple more down there, look. Got these weird, I don't know what they are. They're for shooting maybe, I guess this is a grouse moor. Let's take a seat. Oh. Again, if anybody knows, let me know what they are. So, looking for some help. My just get out there and start walking attitude has fared me well for a few months. Unfortunately, my very cheap and very cheerful boots are no longer up to the task. They've given up and my feet are pissing wet through. Go check out my video on the Cloud and Corbar Hill for my kit review. So I'm on the market for some new boots. I know zero about hiking, other than you put one foot in front of the other. Sometimes your feet are slightly higher when you do so. I need some recommendations for boots that are going to last me for the remaining 80% of my Ethel hunt. Drop me a comment. Tell me what's good, bad, indifferent. Tell me what to avoid. So, really enjoying walking over the moors. I genuinely do enjoy this scenery. Interestingly, it's generally pretty flat once you get up onto the moor tops. But then occasionally you have this incredibly steep gorge that is being carved out by a little stream. And it becomes an absolute nightmare to scramble down and back up it. All that from a little stream. Crazy. Here we are. Ethel number 20. Combs Head. Got the cat fiddle over there somewhere. We'll be visiting you shortly. Not today. Got Black Edge. back there somewhere. Just come from there. Very nice. So I'm walking just beneath, it's called Naze Castle. Just about make up the footings up there. It's an Iron Age fort originally, and taken over by the Romans and rebuilt almost entirely in medieval times. It was strategically important because of the Goyt Valley just down there. Basically it overlooks the entirety of that valley, so gives a lot of protection. It was excavated in 1957 by archaeologists from the University of Nottingham. They found all kinds of Roman stuff. They do like to make a mess, them Romans, don't they? Coins, pottery. Some coins had Constantine the Great on them. Gives it something of a date. So I'm just coming down into the Goyt Valley. A couple of reservoirs. You've got the Fernley and the Earwood. The reservoirs themselves are not particularly interesting. They were made by, I don't know, United Utilities or whatever the British Water Board was called in the 1960s. But their names are interesting. So the first of those two reservoirs, the Fernley, both names are used. It's named after a local gunpowder company, called the Fernley Gunpowder Company, who made a staggering amount of gunpowder. They supplied the British Army at the time when we were a colonial power, so that gunpowder will have filled muskets that shot at people in Australia and India and the West Indies and all over the world. The problem they had, which is a very common problem with gunpowder, the stuff kept exploding and killing people before they could actually kill people by it exploding out of the muzzle of a musket. And that happened regularly, you know, deaths were very common. So they sold up. Just 80 years after they realised this was a problem, 1888, they sold it to a company called the Chilworth Gunpowder Company, who actually expanded production. By the late 1800s, munitions were getting ever bigger and requiring more and more gunpowder to operate. Muskets had been phased out for bolt-action rifles that could fire much quicker. They were making bank. They were producing. Roll on the First World War. You know, a lot of people died in that war. So in 1920, they decided to shut up shop. They're not sure, we're not going to do this again, are we? I mean, we've just killed a couple of million people per country that was involved. Surely we'll stop now. Then they see the Second World War coming, where we killed on an industrial scale. That gunpowder was supplied by other people's factories. So by the 1960s, they shut up shop. They'd long gone, and they flooded the valley and named it after the gunpowder factory. The second of those two reservoirs, Earwood, it's named after Earwood House. It was built in the 1830s, and it was grand in only the way that Victorian era, no, pre-Victorian era, English stately homes could be. It was built by the Grimshaw family. It was surprisingly short-lived. You know, a lot of these houses are kind of dynastic in nature and they'll last for for climb over this fence. Generation after generation. This one lasted just 2 generations. Built by old man Grimshaw, and his grandchildren abandoned it. So the ruins are still there. You can still see the footings, you can still see the kind of foundations of where the hall stood. But most of the gardens and grounds is now underneath the level of the reservoir. Surprise, surprise, much of it was ended up being bought out by our friend the Duke of Devonshire. Check out every single video I've done because they prop up all over the place. There endeth the Grimshaw family and Airwood Hall. So I've just crossed the other side of the Goyt Valley. See Combs Head there? Gives you an idea of the scale of it from down here. So I had to switch to my microphone. It's quite windy up here. Walking down this very charming path though. We're in the upper Goyt Valley. The moors down there, look. It's very hot today. If I was to follow this path in that direction for 25 miles, something like that, and eventually come out at High Peak Junction, because this is the other end of the High Peak, the Cromford and High Peak railway line. Go check out my video on Cromford Moor and Harborough Rocks for more details. So, this is Burbage Tunnel, again carved out of the rock by very strong arms. It's 580 yards long. It's the longest tunnel on the Cromford and High Peak railway line. And it's bricked up at both ends now. Can't get into it at all. Except if you're a BT engineer, because they run broadband cables through it. We are Ethel number 21, Burbage Edge, aka Goyt's Moss. Let's take a look at what we've got. There's the moors over there. Let's make out the Cat and Fiddle pub. And down in the valley, lovely stuff. So in 1934, a couple of RAF pilots, some speculate that they were joyriding in a plane in a de Havilland Moth, crashed onto Burbage Edge. Both of them survived the crash itself, and figuring probably going to be in a bit of trouble for this, they hightailed it out of there. Where did they go? The pub. They went straight across the valley there to the Cat and Fiddle. Got a few jars in before they were in any real trouble. Takes the edge off.